Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing one of the greatest minds in development of our time. And full disclosure, she is also my favorite karaoke partner and one of the greatest friends that I have. Her name is Julie Ordoñez.
Well, let's jump in, shall we? I'm so excited.
I am too. Julie's going to share some tricks of the trade from her expertise, and hopefully people will find something very resourceful from it. So what other strategies would you recommend right now for building that relationship with donors?
My recommendation in this time is to focus on shoring up and strengthening the relationships you have with your top 25 funders. For most nonprofits, there are about 25 funders who amount to 90% of their annual budget. So if one or two or a handful of those donors and funders decide to not give or make their gift a bit smaller, that's something that we should know about and should get out in front of. And, this is a great way to include your board. Let's reach out to our top 25. Let's have our board members call them and just check in and say thank you and update them on, the challenges that you're facing right now as an organization and what you're doing about it, and ask for their advice. What do you think that we should be doing? What are you hearing from other organizations that you have been partnering with that you think are doing a really great job? What can we incorporate? What can we shift? What can we change? What can we stop doing? And what should we continue to do or press into even more? We are going to continue to forge forward into the future because that's who we are. That's what we do. And we want to thank you for allowing us to do what we do. And you're a part of that.
Let's talk about a board right now. How can your board be more involved in fundraising and connected to the organization?
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting dynamic. Board members, of course, want to do a great job. They want to be a great board member. And, nonprofit leaders often struggle to really figure out how to crack that nut of how do we engage our board in fundraising outside of just having them ask people for money. And, I think now is such a beautiful time to really create a powerful personal experience of focusing on building relationships with your board in new ways and including them in strengthening the relationships that you have with your donors. I think we have to look at board members as ambassadors. And if we create a really great experience for them as a donor, then they will organically and naturally want to connect their friends, their coworkers, their contacts to the organization because they've had such a great experience as a donor themselves. So first of all, if your board aren't donors, then they can't really share firsthand with their friends, hey, this is what it's like to be involved and to give. I love being a part of this organization. I receive a 5-star experience. There's excellent customer service. The staff that I interact with anticipate my needs. And the board member may not even be able to articulate these things, right? But It's really more of how can a nonprofit distinguish themselves in creating a world-class experience. When you give to us, you understand the impact. We communicate with you challenges. We update you with meaningful information that matters to you. Yeah. And it's a lot simpler to do that than people think it is. It's not about sexy marketing. It's not about being, coming up with innovation around every corner. What's actually innovative is being relationally intelligent
Yeah.
and caring about people.
That is one of the things that when I call you one of the greatest development minds, it's that holistic view that
Mm,
I've always seen you bring to fundraising and development, and just generosity, and embodying that so well and
mm,
bringing that to your clients. And it's something that I value in how I approach clients through events. I always look at, when I support nonprofits, I look at their events as an extension
mm.
of that quality experience that you're talking about, that starts from how they relate to their board.
Yeah.
I should come in and be like a culmination of the experience that's already been had throughout the organization. And we
Mm,
just come together for a night and we get to celebrate it. So
I
that's
love
one of
that.
the exciting things for me working with nonprofits.
Yeah.
What are something that boards or organizations can think about right now to show up for their donors?
In human relationships, right? Fundraising is about relationship.
Yeah.
In human relationships, when there is a lack of communication, negativity usually fills that space. And that is something we have control over, regardless of what crisis we're in. So I think the best way for a nonprofit leader to show up for their donors right now is to practice being fully present. Wouldn't it be radical if you
Mm.
communicated to your donors by being fully present and not having to say a word? Being with you right now in this moment, in the way that I'm showing up, I am choosing to be focused on you. And this conversation is the most important thing to me in the world right now. There is nowhere else I'd rather be. And if nonprofit leaders really stood in that space, when they're perhaps the ones who would have every excuse to be easily distracted, right?
Right.
I mean, super justifiable. Yeah, you've got a lot of plates spinning. You're wearing multiple hats. You're largely overworked and underpaid and underappreciated and over criticized.
Yeah.
But if we could communicate that to donors, I'm listening to you, I'm here with you, I don't have any other agenda but to be here with you in this moment, to listen and to be fully present.
Yeah.
That is a powerful statement that you are making to that person. And I guarantee that if you practice that, it will distinguish you from the other organizations that that donor gives to.
One of the things that I see as a huge opportunity for nonprofit organizations is to for them to slow down a bit and take stock. And I know that you have some strategies around that, that I'd love for you to talk about.
Yeah. Something that I do with my clients is called a donor experience audit. So, what that means is let's pretend that you are a donor and we're going to go on your website. We're going to try to reach out and contact you in all of the ways that you can be contacted to really see what is it like giving online. And you can do this with a current donor that you already have. You can pick one and what are all of the mass emails that we've sent? If you give it a certain level, who do you hear from our organization? How are you thanked? Are you thanked sufficiently? Most donors say that they do not feel like they've been thanked, even though we know that they have. And it's usually because an automated mass email that just says thank you is not a sufficient thank you. We know that. And so whether a donor is giving $50 or $5,000 or $50,000, they need to be sufficiently thanked. So I think this moment in taking a pause in some activities like events can create an opportunity to really take stock of what is it that our donors experience, and is that the experience that we want them to have? And If not, let's optimize it. Let's take the time. If we could just make this one little tweak on our website, that might garner us, 10 more monthly donors. And that's huge.
Yeah.
How easy is it to navigate your website and become a donor for the first time? If I don't know you, then what's it going to be like for me? So that's just one example. I think conducting an audit can really be a great use of time when other activities are slowing down or taking a pause.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a time for reflection and creativity, because I think our brains are programmed to survive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we tend to narrow our focus into managing what is in front of us when we're in crisis,
Yep.
when we're under threat. And so that oftentimes leaves us short-sighted and not capable of taking the opportunities that are in front of us.
Yeah.
For things like an audit. And I even think for things, thinking about, if we can't do live events, then how do we maintain that social connection? And just thinking about ideas like, can you host a happy hour virtually with your board members to continue to keep them informed? Eventually, when you come back to live events, like, how well can you incorporate digital components now that you see what the digital world can afford you?
Right.
How can we expand? This could be times for new revenue streams for large events and galas involving people all over the world, not just people who are in the ballroom with you.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a beautiful time to think about things like that.
Wow, we can do this, and we can actually turn it around really fast all of a sudden, something
Right?
that was like impossible, and that's going to take months. We got to get the staff onboarded, and we got to get people, and we got to, it's like, well,
that's my favorite thing. Of things that I would have gone into a client saying, if you add this digital component, they're like, yes, 6 months from now, next year we can do it. And guess what? We all did it overnight practically.
Hey, there you go. Anything is possible. That's
Absolutely.
right.
Thinking about the future, right? A lot of nonprofits have had the issue of, how do I open up to new donors, particularly around millennials? Because I think now is an excellent time to capitalize on getting to millennials, because now you're speaking their language. And so I know you have some thoughts around that.
It is something that is on my heart all the time. Is millennials are make up such a huge percentage of the workforce now, but are the least engaged in philanthropy. And compared to Gen Xers and Boomers, we're not seeing the same trend. Xers and Boomers, when they move up in their career, when they make more money, their giving increases. And we're not seeing that trend with millennials. Fundraising with younger people needs to be relational. It needs to be personal in an actually vulnerable way. And it needs to be mobile, but it will require nonprofit leaders to think differently. Millennials have not really followed the trend of giving more, not because they're not interested in having an impact, because millennials are volunteering, but they're not necessarily giving at the same level. Millennials are more skeptical than previous generations of nonprofits and of institutions in general. And so that's why there's such a huge conversation around transparency, right? We see that a lot. And, one of the organizations that's at the forefront of transparency is and was Charity Water, right? We're going to be radically showing you exactly where your money goes, so much so that we're going to give you the GPS coordinates to where the money went, and you can see it from your laptop. And the whole purpose of being transparent is so that it builds trust. And so it's not just about transparency. That's not the silver bullet. It's really about being a leader of integrity. and being someone who can exemplify generosity themselves. Because millennials will sniff it out and they will choose to not give. And that's currently what's happening. If you can teach someone to be generous when they're 25, when they're 35, then how might they have such a huge impact in the future for the rest of their life?
Younger people really want to feel that they're having an impact. It matters to them and I think that's one of the values of transparency. But I love that you mentioned the greater argument there is an integrity. Great leadership in times like this, and always, looks at who can I empower? Because you don't always have the answers, who can I empower? Who can I partner with? And I think that's going to be really key for organizations, nonprofits, as they navigate this space that we're in and come out on the other side, because there will be an end. We don't know what it's going to look like, but are you going to be prepared for it? Have you used this time to the best of your ability to thrive in this new future that we're all moving towards?
Absolutely. Fundraising is really about leadership.
Yeah.
And leadership is influence. And so if you are someone of influence, you can make a great fundraiser. If you can learn to build relationships and have the big picture and the long term in mind, and if you are patient and persistent and relentless, fundraising, even in times like these, you can still be successful. And I think that success is going to look different. Success might be your donor confiding in you with things that they've never shared with anyone, because you're being fully present and you are a leader that can be trusted and is reaching out and proactive. And we have so much power and so much to offer our donors, our volunteers, our employees, in leading them towards a better future and keeping that vision in mind as we move forward in fundraising.
Absolutely. No better way to end.
Thank
Thank you, Jules.
you.
Happy quarantining.
Yes, you too.